I've been a photographer, or I've been into photography for around about 15 years. And I recently did a couple of weddings. It was something I looked at a while ago and decided, I don't think so, it's not really for me at the moment. And then about a year ago, a little over a year ago, I was at a friend's wedding and I watched the photographer and I just thought, I could do this. I could really do this. So I went back to work. This was a December wedding. I went back to work after the new year and I thought, I'm going to do some wedding photography. I didn't really know how I was going to do any wedding photography. I was just going to do some wedding photography. I wanted to do it. And within the first week of being back at work, 2 of my colleagues asked me to do their wedding. And I've only done 2 weddings. I'm not telling you how to shoot a wedding. I'm certainly not an expert in shooting weddings. But I do have some experience about shooting your first wedding, some very recent, relevant experience. Before you even consider doing a wedding, there are a few things that you need to think about. Firstly is your ability. Can you do it? Could you pull it off? Can you, even if it's just a friend's wedding, and they say, oh yeah, we don't care, we just want you to take some photos. There's still going to be an expectation from them, and there's most certainly going to be an expectation and worry from you about your ability. Situations can arise during the day which you haven't planned for. You can research it as much as you like, and we'll get into that. But things can happen that you haven't planned for, that you didn't expect, and you need to be able to deal with it and make it work. So as an example, my second wedding, they wanted their group shots out on the lawn of the venue with the landscape in the background, and the only way to do that was shooting into full sun. I'd never, unbelievably, after 15 years experience of photography experience, I'd never ever used fill light before on a flash in that situation. But I understood the concept of it, so I had the ability to do it. I didn't know that was going to happen. And I basically got my flash gun, I put it on, I set my exposure, I set my flash exposure, I took a photo. It was a little bit off, but I had the experience of taking a photo in the past that's not correct exposure, and knowing pretty much exactly how much to adjust to get that right exposure. Because at a wedding, you don't want to be faffing around with your equipment. You just need to get the job done. It needs to be seamless. They almost need to not notice you there at all, depending on the style of photography you do. And that worked, and I felt great after doing that. If I hadn't known what to do, and those group shots might have been completely different, and they might not have been as happy as they were, I wouldn't have been as happy, and my confidence would have dropped, possibly. But it's important that you have the skill, that you know that you've got the skills to do it. They always say that it's the photographer, not the camera, or not the equipment. Most cases that is, and yeah, you do need to be a good photographer, but most cases that is true. Until you come to doing something like a wedding or events or anything, then yes, you do need the good equipment. You need a camera. This is based on what people expect from a wedding photographer these days. Because obviously, years ago when you shot film, there was group shots. There was a few bridal shots, bridal posing, portraits, and so you could do it. So you could control the situation that all that was done in. But nowadays, people want a reportage style. They want a documentary style. They want photos throughout the whole day from everywhere, from the church, and the church is going to be dark. So you need a camera that can handle a good high ISO and produce usable images. You need a lens which is going to be fast and let enough light in. And again, you need to know how to use all this, but equipment is important for a wedding. Preparation. I could just keep saying that. I just keep saying preparation. It's just so important. It is so important. You could probably do enough preparation, but you could never do too much. And when I say preparation, I'm talking about visiting the venues where the wedding's going to be held. the church, the hotel, the country manor, registry office, wherever. You need to go there. You need to see it. You need to know. You need to speak to the people there. Know what you can do when you're there. Can you use flash? Do they want you to stand outside and take photos? Can you approach the front? Do you have to stand at the back? You need to know all this, because the last thing you want when you walk into the church or when you walk into wherever they're getting married is to be surprised and told that you can't do that. And if you've got a bunch of shots in your head that you want to get, suddenly you can't get them, and you'll be thinking, oh, well, what can I do instead? And all your photos are going to be taken with your maybe 70mm max zoom, as I had at my last wedding, stood right at the back, and all the shots are going to look the same. So preparation is huge when it comes to shooting a wedding. You need to make sure that you've got enough batteries, enough memory cards, things to clean. There's going to be things I'm going to forget now, because when I did my last wedding, I had a checklist like that long, probably longer. It was a digital document, so I don't really know how long it was. But I had a really long document with loads of check boxes saying, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And I had all my equipment set up days in advance. And another good thing, and this really helps, is take notes. I mean, if you're going to go visiting the church and everything, you're going to write some notes down. Maybe just take a quick note of what settings that you think you can start with, what sort of ISO shutter speed that you can hopefully get away with using. But when it comes to the day of that wedding, take that notebook with you. You may not even look at it, but have it in a pocket, have it in your back pocket. Just, I for example, when on my last wedding, I just made a little bird's eye sketch of the church and put little circles where I planned to take certain photos from. That was all. And it was just a case of, so I didn't get bogged down and sit in one place or forget where I was going to go. I had a quick look at it before the ceremony started, and I was like, oh yeah, there, and there. I knew anyway, because I'd been through it so many times in my head. But I just went in there fully prepared, and that was such a load off. It just took such a weight off me when I got there. I knew what was going to happen throughout the day. I knew what to expect of my equipment and just what I was going to do, and it was great, and it made it so much better. So we talk about preparation, and this probably could be included in that, but it just feels, basically because of this, I missed a great shot, or I missed a great opportunity for a shot. I captured the same moment, I did photograph the moment, but I missed the shot that I wanted, and that was the first kiss. When it happened, I knew it was going to happen. There would have been time for me to get into the position I wanted to take the photo, but it would have meant basically being shoulder to shoulder with the vicar in their face. They didn't know we hadn't discussed this. I was trying to stay more out of the way, and photograph it like more candidly. This is what we discussed. But I missed that shot. I missed the shot of them kissing, and just to basically describe the shot that I had in my head was they had their first kiss, and everybody behind them is clapping. And I kind of caught that, but the composition's rubbish. There's no moment, During your preparation, any shots that you want where you think you're going to overstep your mark, maybe as a photographer, you're going to inject yourself more into the ceremony or the events than you would like to. Discuss this with them beforehand. Because if I had have gone, I brought this up when I took them their memory stick with all their photos on. I chatted with them and I said I missed this, and I said why, and they agreed that if I'd have just done it, then it could have just upset the whole rhythm that was going on, the whole moment. But if we'd discussed it, they also agreed that it would have been a really nice shot. And I'm not beating myself up about it. I have beaten myself up about it. I'm not anymore. It was a shot. I didn't get it, so I didn't get it. But I just think how I would have felt, and that photo would have just looked so amazing if I had got it. If I'd have, I could have missed focus. I could have walked up there and just focused on the back wall, and they would have just been a blur in the front. It would have been even worse. But if I'd have discussed it with them beforehand, we could have had a really nice photo there. Yeah, group shots. I mean, not everybody wants them. I mean, a lot of people nowadays, from my research into wedding photography, they just want the reportage style, the documentary style, candid style. They don't want to be posing. And a lot of people I've spoken to about weddings, they're not really interested in the group shots. But people will ask for a few, because if you want certain people, it's good as a photographer to recommend them, even if on a small scale, because if there's certain people you definitely want in your photos, then a group shot is a guaranteed way to get them in there. So one thing I would say about as a photographer when you come to the group shots is, don't be bossy, but do take charge. An example that I can give of that is my first wedding. We did some group shots outside the registry office on the steps in daylight, and we did a lot of the other group shots, and this was kind of almost like, oh, let's get all these people together and do shots. And then there was just, this was off the list, we'd gone off the list by now, and they just went, oh, let's have these people, let's have these people. We did it inside, I used bounce flash. It was quite dark, I couldn't really see everything, I could see enough to frame them. And then afterwards, when I got on the computer and I looked, and there was some key shots, bride, groom, their kids, family branching out to the outside, and you have one person in that shot that is looking at you, looking directly into the camera and smiling, and everybody else's eyes are going off all over the place, because unbeknown to you, everybody behind you is there with their mobile phones also taking pictures. So these guys in front of you, the ones that you're photographing for the group shot, have no idea where to look. You'd think they'd look at you because you're the official photographer, but people don't. Somebody's pointing a phone up, they'll look over there. Somebody else is pointing another phone, they're looking over there. So I had eyes everywhere, and it wasn't hugely noticeable. The bride and groom that I gave the photos to still loved them. I guess I got a little bit lucky with that one, but I noticed it. So one thing to do is, like I say, take charge. Don't be bossy, because nobody likes a bossy photographer. Take charge. So make sure the people that you're photographing look at you, and then make sure the people all behind you put their phones down until you've taken your photo. And you vocalize this. Say, right, I'm taking photos, or hello, please look at me. Ready? Count down if you want to. Take a photo. Take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 photos, however many you feel like you need to do, depending on the situation. And then go, okay, everybody else, pause, then change the group. And then your photos will have everybody looking at you, and then they can get all their photos that they want. Nothing worse than group shots when eyes are going everywhere. It just doesn't look good at all. A big part of this, especially for you, is you've decided you're going to do a wedding. You're at the wedding, you've done all your reconnaissance, you've done your research, you've spoken to the couple, you're there on the day, and the biggest thing to do then is to enjoy it. You've now got an opportunity to a whole day of photography, or maybe 6 hours of photography, for example, of taking the photos that you want to take. They've asked you to do their wedding because they like your photography. Hopefully that's the case. But you're there to take your the photos in the way that you take them. So do that and enjoy it. You've got a whole day now to take the photos that you want, and you've got people expecting you to be there as a photographer. No one's going to be shying away. They'll probably just ignore you. Mostly they will ignore you because they're drinking, they're enjoying themselves, they're just otherwise occupied, and you just have this opportunity to take some really, really wonderful photos. And don't worry about it, and just go in there, have some pre-planned shots in your head, especially from the ceremony. Get them, just take some nice photos. And believe me, if you do that, when you get home and you've downloaded everything, and then you've had a beer, maybe a whiskey, and then you sit at the computer the next day, a couple of days later. It depends on how many weddings, maybe you've got 3 or 4 weddings that week and you need to edit them quick. But you sit down at the computer and you look at the photos and you enjoy them. You think, that one's nice. That one's nice. I love this one. And then you start putting them on your wallpaper. They're on your phone. You're trying not to show anybody because you haven't delivered them to the couple yet. And it's just such a wonderful feeling. And it's so satisfying. For me, doing the wedding, I got paid for doing the 2 weddings I did. Not very much because I didn't feel right charging too much because I was new to wedding photography. But it was never ever about the money. It was always about getting myself an opportunity to take photos, and also having people look at your work and think, we like what you do, we'd like you to photograph our wedding. That is such a huge thing. It really is. So just go along, enjoy it, and do what you do best. And that's it. Right, hang on. Take 2. Well, maybe you're not. Maybe you'd be on the beach in Hawaii. Okay, so is that all right?
Yeah.
That was a bit serious. I felt like a bit. You're going to regret it because you'll look through the photos and you're not really going to like any of them. They might like them, but you're not really going to like them. Take the photos that you... bollocks. Hey, that's the first one.
Nice, from the heart.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool.
From the heart.
Yeah.